Okay, the gauntlet has been thrown down to surrender, to change. Who's up to the challenge? Well, I'm going to throw a gauntlet down and challenge you. As equally as gifted as he is as a singer, he is as an author, and he is as a workshop leader and a speaker. Please come to the workshop today at 1:30 and experience that times even 100. It is good, it is good. But we're ready to change, yes? Today's talk is spiritual investment. So as I said earlier, I was dressing like an accountant. So I'm going to invite you to let me be your accountant today on the journey of spiritual investing. Will you join me? I'm going to begin with a story, though. There were these two brothers. They were very, very wealthy brothers, Mario and a Luigi. Not that a Luigi, another one. Sorry. But Mario and Luigi were very wealthy, but they have achieved their wealth and their goods through nefarious ways. They were evil, evil guys. They lied, they cheated, they manipulated, and they got their money in ways that were not moral. So they decided, well, I'm going to go join a local church community to try and disguise all my evil ways. But the minister was on to them. He was completely and totally on them. He could see beyond the veil of the piety. And he never once wanted to receive a check from those guys because he knew it was dirty, dirty money. Well, one day, the church was in the middle of a capital campaign, a building campaign, and it was going great, wonderfully well. And Mario died. Luigi came to the pastor the day before Mario's memorial service and funeral and said, "Pastor, I have a nice check here for you. A nice check to pay off of the entire building a campaign. Here you go." The pastor was really conflicted, and he paused, and he was really sweating and not knowing what to do. And he said, "I have one request, Pastor, though. Tomorrow at my brother's funeral, you must say that Mario was a saint." The pastor didn't know what to do with this. He thought for a moment, but he finally took the check. He took the check and he went and deposited it. The building campaign was complete. The investment was put into the bank, and the building began. Well, the next night, the pastor did not hold back anything. During the eulogy, he said, "Mario was an evil man. Mario cheated on his wife. He beat his children. He lied, he manipulated, and his money was dirty." Well, the whole time the pastor is going on, Luigi was sitting in the front pew just fuming with anger about what he was experiencing. But the pastor, as he was beginning to complete the eulogy, said, "But Mario was an evil man. However, compared with his brother, he was a saint." So I know that we have a bunch of saints here today, no sinners, right? Just saints. I want to ask you the question, what's in your wallet? What's in your wallet? What's the first thing you run to? I don't know. Oh, that's something to think about. I don't know. I have a 5, I have a 10, I have a check, I have some credit cards. The premise and foundation of our talk today is when I ask you the question, what's in your wallet, the response should be my consciousness. Consciousness is in my wallet. And when somebody asks me, as the spiritual leader of this congregation, what was in the basket Sunday? Consciousness. Consciousness, the outpicturing, these dollars, these 10s, these 20s. I had more than I thought. I've got a 20. It is nothing more than a manifestation of energy. It is a symbol of consciousness. It is a symbol of energy, either moving or stagnant. A symbol of my awareness of the abundance of God in the universe, or a symbol of my lack of consciousness around the prosperity that we live in and as. Last week we started a 3-part series, a Faith in Action series. We are abundant. Desiree Scales is in the house. I am so happy about that. The 3-part series, a faith-activated series. And step 1 towards achieving our dreams and our visions and the realities of our divine spirit that want to manifest in the human realm. Step 1 was to begin to ask the questions of a visionary. To not be satisfied with what is, but to be asking the questions that allow something greater to emerge. Ask the questions of yourself, your community, and your world that allow the vision and the voice of God to speak in real and magnificent ways. The second step on that journey was to keep my eye single, keep my eye on the ball. We talked about Noah's Ark last week. There was one window in Noah's Ark, and it was in the ceiling, as a reminder, metaphysically, to keep our eye on God, to keep our eye focused on the dream, on the vision, and not allow the human world to pull us off course. This 5-sensory world wants to pull us away from the dream and the vision. It's a reminder to keep my eye single, as a master teacher taught us, and to know that the vision will come as a result of my partnership with the divine energy of life and love and God itself. And then step 3, perhaps the most difficult step for many of us in New Thought churches, is to get off the couch and do something. Take a faith-empowered action. Divine ideas are meaningless if they rest only in our head and are not brought to manifest form. We must be willing to put our body behind the vision and the dream and take a step. We're going to build on these 3 ideas today. We're going to begin to stack a building on top of these 3 ideas today. So as you think about 2 things in your life, your bank account, your checkbook, and your calendar. These are the places. I said 2 and I said 3. I can't count. I'm not a very good accountant for you today. There are 2 places that will reflect your consciousness. It's your finances and your calendar. Close your eyes for a minute and think about those 2 things in your life today. Do these things in your life reflect the consciousness of a visionary, one that is moving forward with purpose, with divine purpose to go grab something? A visionary, or is it the consciousness of one who is grounded in the human reality and one that is going nowhere with no sense of direction? I don't need your answer, but you can open your eyes right now. This is the question that I have been asking of our community. I've been asking of my family and myself for a while. And the result is this series that we are involved in. And so I called to build on this, to build this building, my friend Peter Breeze. Peter, are you in the room today? There he is. I called Peter Breeze. Peter Breeze is a longtime friend, a member of this community, spiritual student and teacher, but he also has spent a good portion of his life in the investment industry, the financial industry, working with people to help them build a financial future. And I said, there might be some benefit to learn from him. So I said, Peter, sit down with me. Can we draw some parallels between financial investing and spiritual investing? He looked at me with kind of a cocked head at first and said, let's talk. Let me tell you, what came out of that dialogue was profound spiritual teaching. And so we're going to talk about that today. I call it the ABCs of spiritual investments. I'm going to call them the ABCDs because I had to go one more. Peter and I like to talk a lot. So I'm going to give you, and there's a sheet in your bulletin if you'd like to take notes. I'm challenging this congregation to take the notes from each of the talks, put them home on your refrigerator, put them in the mirror, and begin to digest them, live them, employ them, and be conscious of them day to day to day as we are building not only sacred community, but sacred lives and dreams and visions. The A, assets. Assets. That's a term he used over and over and over again. Taking inventory of who I am and what I have to offer. What do I want to invest? I have to know what it is I have to invest in order to make that first initial investment. That means, what are my interests? What are my passions? What are my talents? What are my experiences? What are my core values? The most important question of a visionary to ask. What are my core values? What are my greatest treasures? What gives me juice? How am I unique? And how am I using these talents? I'm taking stock of who I am. And let me tell you, there's many of us on this planet who have defined ourselves by these. This is who I am. I have wealth if I have a lot of these. I have wealth if I have a lot in the bank account. They don't define you. These don't define you. Again, it is energy manifesting from your consciousness. And so you are more. I want to begin with the premise that you are more than you have ever thought yourself to be. You are more wealthy than you have ever thought yourself to be. You have more abundance and prosperity than you have ever claimed for yourself. And our consciousness will show up in our willingness to take that step and the sharing of spiritual gifts. The Bible talks about assets all the way through it. And Jesus and Paul and the apostles call it spiritual gifts. And not once in that book, that holy book, do I see that the spiritual gifts are attached to St. Paul's wallet or Jesus' bank account. So what do they tell us are the spiritual gifts? What are the spiritual gifts that we have? The Bible says wisdom is a spiritual gift. Knowledge is a spiritual gift. Faith is a spiritual gift. But let's go on. The gifts of healing, the gifts of understanding, the gifts of prophecy, the gifts of kindness, the gifts of compassion, service, humility, hospitality, time, creativity, order, and patience. These are your greatest treasures. Yes? The Bible, the master teacher says, lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, not on earth. Where is your focus? Is it here? Or is on the divine nature of how God is expressing as you? The spiritual gifts are the places of goodness and magnificence and light that are expressing in and as you right now, whether you are aware of them or not. And here's a spiritual idea. We go around bemoaning and complaining about lack in our lives. When by doing so, when we focus on that which is missing from our lives, we have immersed ourselves in a consciousness of lack. We are playing out of a consciousness of lack. And guess what? That separates us from God. That is a sin in the mind of unity. We've separated ourselves from that which we are, which is not possible. But we've gone to a distant land and a distant future and began to believe things. Lack is not a divine idea in the mind of God. You are infinite. You are wealthy. You are abundant beyond your wildest dreams. And if you hear language, if you have thoughts, and if you are holding feelings that there is a lack in your life, one, you are not acknowledging your spiritual gifts, the wealth of who you are, but you are absolutely removing yourself from the experience of God, the experience of light, and thus the experience of your vision and your dream that you are claiming is important. You're separating yourself from it. Lack is not a divine idea in the mind of God, but I believe, we talked about spiritual laziness last week, that lack is a man-made concept which gives us the wonderful excuse to not take an action and to step back from our dream. Lack is a self-imposed bondage that we have placed upon ourselves as human beings through the ego, the Pharisee mind, that give us the out. Give us the excuse from just taking an action and saying, I'm going to invest my greatest treasure, which is my ability sometimes to be kind. My ability to show up and just be joy. Have you ever thought of your kindness or your joy as a spiritual gift? It is a treasure trove of the kingdom of heaven, gifted to you. How many ever thought of the gift of patience as your greatest treasure? Let me tell you, we have a wonderful board, and there are board members that come to that meeting. A board member in particular, I'm going to highlight him. He's in the room. Where are you, Greg Raduca? Right there. He was asked specifically, for many reasons, but most importantly, the gift of patience. The treasure trove of patience that this man displays. Not because he could put more of these in there. He probably could. I'm knowing that with you guys. But what I do know is he brought a wealth that has raised and elevated the consciousness of Unity North to a financial place of beauty and magnificence that is playing out in our baskets. But it's not because of his money. It's because of who he is. So the first step of spiritual investing is to know who you are. Claim yourself as the magnificent light of God that you are, not from an egotistical place, but to know who you are as one with the infinite Spirit of God and life. Yes? So, Charles Fillmore says, spiritual gifts are the manifestation of Spirit according to our receptivity. Spiritual gifts are the manifestations of God as according to our receptivity. So we can have these spiritual gifts, and we can sit here today and reflect upon a couple of them. Oh, that feels good, it feels nice, and then go out into the real world and go back into our mundane way of living, our human way, and the human mind takes over, and they're forgotten. We must be willing and make a commitment today, where we sit today, to one, acknowledge the gifts. We've done those. Then we must receive them. We must be receptive to them, to receive them and own them as ours. And owning them means sharing them, investing them everywhere. And then I must be willing to use them, and to use them fully. Fully. And as I would say, wastefully. Wastefully. Here's a spiritual concept. You can't outgive God. We don't have a finite amount of those spiritual gifts, a finite amount of that energy, a finite amount of the light that you are. It is infinite. So you can give and give and give and give, show up and give some more. And you can do it not just at church, you can do it at the grocery store after church today. You can do it when you go home and you spend time with your family or your spouse. Or there's a couple in here, I won't call them out, that had a difficult morning because they were arguing and fighting. I'm going to challenge that couple, and you know who you are. To go home and share the spiritual gifts that you are. To give more fully of who you are as an investment in the dream. Not only an investment in your marriage, an investment in a greater reality of God in your life. Are you willing to do that? Oh, the only people that answered were the couple that I was talking. At the end of the day, your greatest asset, I want you to hear this, your greatest asset and the greatest asset of this community is your consciousness. Not your dollars, not your time. Those are byproducts of one who is invested in a greater reality of God. Go invest. That's the assets. A, you are more than you think you are. B, he talked about budgeting. Not something we talk about too much in a spiritual discussion, but budgeting. I said, how can I make that work? Well, I first looked at our board of trustees, who are diligent stewards of your financial investment in the dream that is Unity North Atlanta Church. They are looking constantly and adjusting and flowing constantly with what is going out and what is coming in. How much is coming in and how much can we give out? Oh, we're going to have to adjust how much is going out because the plate wasn't quite as full this week. We have to keep it fluid. And that's a business practice. But let me tell you, it's a spiritual practice. We must be willing as spiritual seekers to look where the leaks are in life and to look where the dividends are being paid. Where are the leaks? Where are the relationships? Where are the situations? Where are the circumstances and the people in my life that are the energy vampires that are pulling me off course, that are sucking the very life out of me that I need, that are taking that spiritual gift and manipulating it and using it? It is a leak, and it must be addressed. And then where are the dividends? I'm going to turn towards the dividends. Where are the payoffs? Where is the good? Where is my life empowered? Where is my life uplifted? Who are the relationships in my life that allow me to rise to my highest and best and call me up to it, not those that are taking me down? Where in my life am I receiving a great affirmation of the good that I am putting out? I'm investing my asset, and the dividends are coming back to me. Plain and simple, unity, metaphysical truth. Where you place your attention will grow. What you are focused on will grow. Focus on the people and the relationships in your life that bring dividends. Focus on the situations that are calling you to a higher place. And let go of the leaks. Let go of the leaks. Not so easy to do, is it? But we sing all the time, I release and I let go. But we must be very mindful. On the spiritual path, we must be as mindful as our board of directors in this community. I'm mindful of not wasting money and not wasting resources, but using everything I have, keeping my eyes single, and allowing the dream to be made manifest. Spirituality 101. Business 101. And then he brought up a term I couldn't squeeze into my ABCs. He said risk management. Risk management? And we began to dialogue about the truth that as a human being, every action has a risk associated with it. Every investment has a risk associated with it humanly. Things might not turn out the way that we want them. So I want to turn your attention again, focused on spiritually. We're keeping our eyes single, not allowing a financial investor's mind to pull me off course, but to allow a spiritual investor's mind to put me on course. In Galatians, we read, as we sow, so shall we reap. It's law. It's law. There is no risk within the law. Utilizing the law and love of God, I give it out, it comes back. I send it out, it comes back to me. It returns to me, and it returns 10 times. I serve, I am served. I invest, the investments come back to me and pay dividends. I show up at community and I give, I pray, I own. And guess what? The community suddenly looks different to me. I go out in the world and I shine my light, the assets of who I am, to a greater degree at the grocery store. My experience of the grocery store has now been elevated. And that payoff may not come at the grocery store. The payoff of the abundance of your life may come in some place totally different than the grocery store, but we must be willing to make that investment. As we sow, so shall we reap. Now, why is it that there is no risk spiritually to invest? Number one, and we've already talked about it, there is no lack in the mind of God. It is an infinite wellspring. It is an infinite source that cannot be exhausted. Number two, if God is for us, nothing is against us. We've heard it over and over and over again in many of the world's scriptures. If you keep your eyes single and the presence of God is moving in your way and you are spiritually activated, empowered in a place of faith, you cannot fail because nothing is going to get in the way. The mountains will move. The obstacles will move. The leaky places will automatically be gone without you having to push and shove them. And then three, and I believe our most powerful tool for creativity, our most powerful tool for creativity and for the achieving of the dream, it is through the grace of God we can choose again. Spiritually, I can make another choice. The only risk spiritually when it comes to investing in your life and your light and your dream is not doing anything at all. I take one step. Here's a spiritual law: as I give, I will receive. As I sow, I shall reap. I take one step towards my vision. It's now one step closer to me. I take 100 steps towards that vision and that dream. It's now 100 steps closer to who I am and to what I want to be and what God would do through me and as me. But many times we think that a spiritual path looks like this. I'm just going to stand here and I'm going to hold my hands in a certain way. And I'm going to see that vision clearly with the faculty of my imagination. I'm praying, I'm meditating. Let me tell you, it's a spiritual principle. That dream is forever at arm's length, never, ever going to reach it. It is important that we take action. We do something. Get off our assets. The assets have no value sitting here. The assets must be invested. They must be given freely and completely. And that means budgeting. So he talked, and Peter is a very creative mind. He said, well, let's say you have a dream and a vision, and California represents the vision. You want to get to California. Here you are in Georgia, and you want to get to California. This is the sea. So we've got our assets. We're more than we think we are. We got budgeting. We're looking at where the leaks are and where the dividends are being paid, and now we create a strategy. We craft a strategy. How am I going to get to California? I got an email this week from somebody sitting here today who said, I love what you said last week, so I'm going to repeat it. Dreams don't happen by accident. Dreams don't happen by accident. Church community doesn't happen by accident. Your rising to the highest of who you are isn't going to happen by accident. You have to have a strategy. So first thing you have to do is take some time, invest some time to say, how am I going to get to California? I'm going to take a car. Maybe I'm going to get a helicopter or an airplane. Maybe I'll decide to hitchhike or just walk. But you have to take the time, invest the time to know how I'm going to get there. And I'm going to liken the mode of transportation to the Sangha. Ever heard the term Sangha? It is a Buddhist term, which means the spiritual community. We are the vehicle. So, on my dream, I've decided I'm going to invest in not a car, but a bus. I'm going on a bus to California. And I'm going to have fellow travelers on the bus with me. Anybody who's ever gone on a road trip on a bus, it's a lot of fun, right? But this community, the spiritual community, is the vehicle that will get me to my dream. It is the very vehicle that will allow that dream to prosper and to flourish and to become manifest. We don't do it alone. There's no such thing as a self-made man or a self-made woman. We're doing it together. So I invest my time in finding the spiritual community. I assume you're here. This is a mode of transportation that you're comfortable with. We're all going to go to California. All right. So I got to sit down. There's a lot of ways to get to California from here, isn't there? Many paths, one God. I can take the northern route because I might want to see Mount Rushmore. Or I could go down and see the Grand Canyon. But I have to decide. I have to make a decision. And I think so many of us as spiritual seekers never make the decision. Well, I could go this way. I could go that way. Or I could do it this way. But that might be wrong. I might miss something over here. And spiritually, we've got our vision. We want to get there. There's California. And we waste an entire lifetime debating which one's the right way to go. I might miss something. Again, take an empowered action. But we have to get a map. We have to get a map. And we have to sit down and we have to plot, where do I want to go? Where is the Sangha going? Where is the community taking me? How am I going to get to California? And which path am I going to take? I'm going to liken the map to the Dharma, the teachings. Many paths, one God. We share a lot of teachings in this church. You could not possibly dig a well in every one of the teachings. We're a very interfaith-looking church. That's wonderful. But pick the one that works for you. Decide on the map. Invest in the one that works for you. The book, the teaching, the Dharma is going to take you to California. So how do we do that? How do we decide which path works for us? Talk to the Buddhas. So we've got the Sangha, the community, the Dharma, the teaching. Go talk to the Buddhas. Who are the Buddhas? Those who have made the journey before. I'm going to go find out. Hey, Dana, you went to California last month. Which way worked for you? What did you see? How was that? Share me the experiences. I'm going to invest some time to put my ears on. Here's a spiritual investment that we need to do. Put our ears on and start listening. Oh, you like the Northern Road? Well, tell me what was good about it. I'm going to try that. We invest our ability to listen as much as we do with our ability to think, our ability to speak. Our ability to be is the most powerful spiritual investment that we can make. So I'm going to go talk to the Buddhas too. I'm going to sit down and plot where I'm going to go, get the map out. And let me tell you, maps are not something you look at once when you're sitting in Georgia, and then you put them down, and then you get in the car and you go. There must be regular practice. A spiritual investment is to take the map with me. This is how I'm getting to California. This is how my dream is going to be made manifest. And I refer to it often, not just on Sundays, not just when it's comfortable, not just when I'm crashing and burning and the car gets a flat tire. No, I'm referring to the map, the Dharma, the teachings, and the Buddhas all along the road. And then 3, drive, drive, drive. Let's stop talking about our visions. Let's stop talking about the magnificent Unity North Atlanta Church and the potential that is here in this church, and let's start investing in it. Talk is cheap. Let me stop talking about the grander vision of Richard Burdick's life and start doing something to make it manifest. My talk is cheap. Let's stop talking about how wonderful Unity North can be and having and spending a great deal of money to get some of the greatest speakers here. We've had quite a long line of fantastic speakers in this community. Let's stop talking about it and let's start being it. Let's stop talking about how great Michael Beckwith is on the West Coast. And let's start showing up and investing in a community to create Agape International here. Let's stop talking about how great it would be to go down the street because they have a program, and let's start being the program that we want to see. As a spiritual community, I'm calling you out. I'm calling me out. And I'm calling out the divine essence of your assets to get off your assets and start sharing them. And know that this will follow. I don't define this church by how many of these are in the plate. But I do define it by the consciousness that is showing up in our plate. And we talk a lot of good game about wanting more programs, greater programs. Well, start thinking that you are part of the solution because we need more of these in the plate to make those happen. I don't like to talk about money. I am confronting one of my sacred cows. I don't like talking about money. But when I can make the shift in my mind that this is nothing more than energy, this is nothing more than God in action, it's going to happen. And it will happen organically and naturally. And here's how it's going to happen with our D. So we've got our assets. You are more than you think you are. Our B, we're checking where the leaks are and where the dividends are being paid with a budget. C, we've crafted a strategy. And then finally D, diversification. I have to diversify. Where am I sharing my gifts? Where am I receiving God? I need to diversify where I invest and diversify where I receive. I determine my assets, my spiritual gifts, and I invest them fully and wastefully everywhere. Not just at church, not just where it's comfortable. I invest them everywhere. I shine my light so brightly that the people around me cannot help but know that that light exists in them. I live as an ambassador and an emissary of what's happening at Unity North because I go to the grocery store and I'm at the clerk and they say, you are just a full of life joy person. I want a piece of that. How do you get that? Come to my community. Diversify where you receive. This is the final teaching of the day. So many of us think our job is our source, our bank is our source, our congregation is our source, that our church community is our source. Diversify where you are receiving because God is where? Everywhere. God is not just in this community. God is not just in this church. To show up, share your assets, and then be willing to experience God in every single area of ministry here. Go out into the real world and be willing to receive God in every area of your life, even the ones that seem dark, even the ones that don't feel good. Lay down the gauntlet and say, it can be a more joyous, more beautiful, more magnificent world because I'm willing to be a more joyous, more magnificent, and more beautiful person. Everywhere. God is your source. God is our source. God as you and you and you and God as all of us. I'm going to invite you to make a spiritual investment as soon as you leave the building today. We're having coffee and refreshments. First of all, make an investment in the beautiful music and book of Charles Holt, and you go into the foyer. And then head out. You see tables and chairs out there? Go out and be in the beautiful sunshine, experiencing the vast miracle that is life and love. And then take a sticky pad. We have a vision board out there to write your vision for your life. Because as you grow, we grow. Your vision for the church. Because as we grow, you grow. Go plaster sticky pads all over that vision board, and we're going to pray over that. We're going to hold that in consciousness as a community, as a staff, and as a board. And we are going to live in the proving of principle, in the proving of God at Unity North Atlanta Church. Go out and have some fun, share your gifts, whatever it may be, and put the sticky pads all over that, and they will be in here next week for the third part of our series. Again, I've thrown a gauntlet down. I challenge you to define yourself by the magnificent light of God that you are. And go after the dream, for you are the dream. Namaste.